the labor of capturing the Corinthian hind. Hercules stood in the hall waiting to hear which would be his next labor of atonement, while Eurystheus was in the large clay pot, hiding from his view.
"What is the next labor?"
Eurystheus inside was afraid, but still thinking through options clearly, taking inspiration from the events that took place in the previous labor.
The Corinthian hind is the cherished deer of goddess Artemis. If the terrible beast sent by Artemis cannot finish this pest of a man, then Artemis will eliminate Hercules directly. Artemis will do this if Hercules were to attempt to capture this deer, and if Hercules were to succeed somehow and deliver it to me, then I can profit from its trade. A win-win situation for me.
Eurystheus finally poked his head out of the pot.
You must capture the Corinthian hind. Bring the hind to me.
Artemis had 5 sacred hinds, deer with iron hooves, and one had golden antlers. These hinds were so swift they could outrun an arrow. 4 of these hinds pulled the chariot of Artemis, and the 5th was allowed to run wild in nature. Although it was free to roam, it still was under the protection of Artemis. This was the only hind where the female had antlers. Hercules set out to find the hind and spotted it in nature, and ran after it, trying to catch it. He put all his might to be fast enough and tried tricks of concealment. Hercules pursued the hind for a full year, traveling around countries in the north, mythical Hyperborea. He could not kill it, as it had to be brought back alive, and even if he killed it by accident, then Artemis would kill him as well. He did not want to die before completing his labors of atonement, leaving spiritual debt from this life while entering the next one. The hind turned to Greece after a full year and continued back to Arcadia, stopping to drink water by the river Ladon, which means the river of light. The hind went to cross the river, and Hercules then used an arrow which did not have the hydra blood on the tips, which hit the hind in the leg, causing it to slow down. Without the hydra blood poison, the wound would heal, and Hercules grabbed the hind on the other side. Artemis, witnessing this, was furious, and descended to confront Hercules, who was holding the hind not moving. Hercules awaited Artemis and explained the reasons which forced him to capture the hind, and all the circumstances leading to that moment. Hercules promised to return the hind unharmed, which Artemis accepted after the honest, upfront explanation. Hercules returned to the hall and presented the hind to Eurystheus, who was surprised but not unhappy. He rose to take it from Hercules.
Oh, the hind, you have it. Bring it to me at once, as I command you now.
Hercules replied.
"Come and collect it."
But as soon as Eurystheus approached, Hercules released the hind a moment earlier, and Eurystheus, seeing the hind, run away.
Return it to me immediately to complete my command under my authority.
"My labor was to bring it here, which I did, and cannot take responsibility for your sluggish actions."
Artemis was satisfied to see the hind free in the forest again. Interpretation of the myth with the symbolic elements. Artemis is atremis, which means without fear, no tremble, and was the representation of purity and its sworn protector, eliminating wild beasts, which threatened the pure. The Corinthian hind is a representation of innocence. After Hercules killed his good friend Pholus and put his renowned mentor into a perpetual state of pain and misery, he felt that he lost his innocence. This would have confused him, and being lost had to go on a long journey to regain it or find solace in isolation. The trip to the north, Hyperborea, demonstrates the connection between the northern territories and the traditional ethos of Hercules at the time, with the need for the cold and snow to blank out previous thoughts, as was done with the Erymanthian boar. Innocence cannot be caught, and that is why, no matter how fast he ran, where he ran to, or even as far as he went to be alone, his innocence could not be grasped. This labor took the longest amount of time to show that the effort in this direction is futile, and that innocence cannot be caught in the same manner as vengeance. These two concepts complement each other. The key is that he did not come to terms with the byproducts of his actions, the collateral damage. By going far away as an escape along with isolation and a long period of time, innocence brought him back to the source. In the river he saw the light, rivers being the physical representation of continuous change. At that moment he shot an arrow without lies, an honest message to the center of the river at his innocence. He understood that his innocence would be tainted with blood, and that it was unavoidable, that the honest way of heroism would not come clean. To cross the river of light, the waters would have blood mixed in it from innocence. Innocence, although injured, is recaptured with the truth in an honest light. The protectorate of the innocent and pure confronted Hercules and acknowledged the situation, agreeing to a plan which would help Hercules. This scene shows that Hercules was not wild, and that Artemis did not see him as a wild beast. The bloodshed fell upon the hands of Eurystheus, because Hercules would not have acted in such a manner if it were not for him. Hercules needed ingenuity to satisfy the agreement with Artemis, and Eurystheus, showing that finding novel approaches is a necessary tactic of the Herculean tradition, personified by even Odysseus of Ithaca. He was upfront and honest with Artemis, but not with his adversary Eurystheus, who applied that to him. Although this is one of the simpler labors, it is of prime importance that followers of the tradition of Hercules understand that they cannot escape the fact that their actions of heroism will not come clean. It is possible on this path to once again touch upon their innocence, but that will not last long. Extra quotes. Diodorus Siculus, Library of History, 4.12.13, translation Old Father, Greek historian, 1st BC. The next command, the fourth labor, which Hercules received, was the bringing back of the hart which had golden horns, that the Corinthian Hind, and excelled in swiftness of foot. In the performance of this labor, his sagacity stood him in not less stead than his strength of body. For some say that he captured it by the use of nets, others that he tracked it down and mastered it while it was asleep, and some that he wore it out by running it down. One thing is certain, that he accomplished this labor by his sagacity of mind, without the use of force and without running any perils. Summary. A mortal cannot exercise their will absolutely, and with complete knowledge of the events which will take place from their actions. Not all of the results of heroism can be in line with the aspirations. This should not inhibit the hero of the Hercules tradition. Between both sides of the river bank, innocence is found in the middle, which will purify the path of heroism. The innocent and pure cannot exist without protection by those who do not tremble, those who are willing to eliminate those threats. Ingenuity is often a necessity. It may be a deep desire to once again hold innocence, but that will not last. This path will not come clean.